Hello everyone, this is Kona, and thank you for tuning in to another video. Now I'm continuing my series where I look at the similarities and differences between the playstyle of a class from Team Fortress 2 and a hero from Overwatch that's inspired by that class. Now I know at times it can seem like healing isn't that glamorous of a job, especially compared to DPS roles, but it's a very important part of any class-based game like FPSs, MOBAs, and MMORPGs. I think Mercy is an interesting combination of the mechanics of a single target healer like the Medic from TF2 and also the aesthetics of a fantasy mage type healer from an MMORPG. Yeah, I used to play Terra a lot, and yeah, I used to play a priest. Anyway, let's see what the Medic and Mercy have to offer. I think their role on the team is pretty straightforward. They're both really good at focus healing a single target, and it's made very obvious by their healing beam. Unfortunately, because they're so good at focus healing, they have no means to defend themselves while they're healing, meaning that they're very dependent on their teammates keeping them alive if they get rushed down. I think this is why some people don't really like to play this type of healer. Sometimes the people you're healing are so focused on what's in front of them that they sometimes forget to look behind and help you out when you need it. Now, playing a healer is not really about aiming, it's more about positioning and timing, and if you're doing those well, you can make a huge impact in the game, sometimes without even your teammates realizing it. It's like that saying goes, if you're doing things right, people won't be sure you've done anything at all. And if you screw up, then your DPS would be like, where's the heals? So, life of a healer. Now the Medic does require some aiming with the Crusader's crossbow, which seems to be a very popular weapon right now, but Mercy doesn't really have this option of long-range healing. That's more of Ana's department. Now ignoring the Ubers and ultimates for now, which I'll talk about later, the Medic and Mercy have different approaches to how they buff the person that they're healing. Now during normal healing, the Medic helps his target with more defensive types of buffs. Buffs that focus on survivability like overhealing, you have faster healing with a quick fix, or you have damage resistance with the Vaccinator. Now Mercy doesn't really have this option of overhealing. Instead, she mainly focuses on giving an offensive damage buff of 30% to her target by right-clicking. It's almost like giving mini crits as a buff, and it makes gameplay with her kind of interesting since you have to decide which is more important at that time, healing or more damage. By the way, I recommend enabling toggling for the Medic and the Mercy. Now holding down M1 while playing Medic isn't too bad. I mean, I've gotten kind of used to it, but I've noticed that when I play Mercy, my hand starts to hurt a little bit because I have to hold down M1 or M2. So I think enabling toggling for both of these healers is a pretty good idea, and it might save you some pain in your hand later on. Now I do want to mention the concept of pocketing because I found them to feel a little bit different from each other. Now if you don't know, pocketing is when a healer focuses most of his time healing a single teammate. There are many benefits of doing this, maybe like the person is more likely to protect you, or maybe he's a high value DPS player, or maybe he's a very tanky player and he's really important to keep alive. Now a Medic who's pocketing classes like soldiers, demos, and heavies can completely wreck the other team, and what I found is that you can be a little bit more aggressive while doing this. Mercy, on the other hand, feels like she needs to be more passive. She can't just follow her DPS right into combat all willy-nilly. You can be sort of aggressive if you're pocketing Pharah, for instance, but most of the time you won't be charging into battle with a Reinhardt or Soldier 76 or Junkrat. I think it's because teamfights can become very chaotic and there's always a chance of an enemy popping an ultimate just to kill you since you're so important to the team. So yeah, I found that aggressive pocketing is a bit more difficult with Mercy, but I think defensive pocketing, heroes like Hanzo, a Junkrat, or a Bastion can work quite well. Mobility and survivability sort of go hand in hand since the Medic and Mercy can't do too many other things while healing. Now, in terms of regular walk speed, the Medic runs at 107% while Mercy runs at 5.5 meters per second, which is what most of the Overwatch cast runs at. This means that the Medic can outrun certain things while Mercy has a difficult time just kind of running away, but that doesn't mean she is easy to hit. Oh no. Mercy's Guardian Angel ability allows her to quickly fly to a teammate in range, whether he's dead or alive, and there's only a 2-second cooldown, which means you can like spam this thing and sort of ping pong between teammates, making yourself very difficult to hit. Also, if you hold down your jump button, you can slowly float to the ground. This can be useful for staying in the air when you're pocketing Pharah or something, or it can make your descent a little bit more unpredictable so that you're harder to hit. It's kind of like the base jumper in TF2, but without the air strafing. Now the medic has some tricks up his sleeve too. Every medic gun allows the medic to run at the same speed as his heal target, meaning that if you're healing a scout, you can run the same speed as him, which is 133%. That is a lot. He also has the option of using the quick fix, which allows him to mirror blast jumps and shield charges of his patients. And while doing that, you can also air strafe in the air when you're jumping, and that's another mobility option as well. Now when they added the quick fix to the game, it seems kind of crazy. I mean, a soldier and a medic are bombing in on you. That is scary. This takes pocketing to a whole nother level. Another thing that helps with their survivability is their self-healing, but they work a little bit differently. The medic does have weapons that can actively help him self-heal, like if you pop a quick fix Uber, the Kritzkrieg taunt, and the Bloodslogger. But I think what's even more powerful is his passive self-heal, which is on all the time, whether you get hit or not. Now, the passive self-heal starts at 3 HP per second, and it scales up to 6 HP per second if you've been out of combat for at least 10 seconds, and the rate can be further increased if you're equipped with the Amputator. Now Mercy does have a self-heal of her own, which gives a massive 20 HP per second, but it only starts if you've been out of combat for at least 3 seconds. I think this might be one of the reasons why I'm having a hard time playing an aggressive style of Mercy. All it takes is just a little hit from something, like maybe some shurikens from Genji, or little shots from Tracer, and all of a sudden your self-heal just completely stops. The last thing that helps with survivability is their self-defense options. At some point, you're going to get rushed down and you're going to have to defend yourself. The medic has some very good syringe gun secondaries, but you'll probably see a lot of medics out there running the Crusader's crossbow instead, because you can damage enemies and heal teammates. Mercy has her pistol sidearm for self-defense, but you actually have to switch to it to use it, which is very strange in Overwatch because most heroes actually can't switch weapons. There are only a select few that can do that. Meleeing is also an option, but Mercy doesn't have anything else other than the regular insta-melee attack that most heroes have in Overwatch. However, the medic has a lot of melee options that can be quite rewarding to use at times. Yes, you have to manually switch to it to use it, and yes, you have to actually practice this a little bit because of that delay, but because of the way random crits works, at least in casuals, there's a good chance for a one-hit KO. Now onto each character's charge or meter-based ability. Now the medic has a variety of Ubers to choose from depending on your situation and also your preferred playstyle. There's invulnerability, there's a crits buff, you can heal faster, or you can have more damage resistance. Now the Ubers can only be used on a single person at a time, but the medic does have the option of switching their healing target while Uber. Unfortunately, this drains your meter a little bit faster, so your Uber won't last as long, but it can give you a really big advantage in the fight if you use it properly, if you time things right, and you give the Uber to the right person at the right time, even for a split second. Mercy's ultimate, on the other hand, doesn't work on teammates who are alive. Her Resurrect ultimate brings heroes back from the dead during their respawn timer. It acts as a sort of counter to enemy ultimates, but instead of trying to survive the ultimates by popping your own ultimate, kind of like healers like Lucio and Zenyatta, Mercy has to wait until her teammates are dead and then swoop in there at the last second for the res, which in a sense basically wastes the enemy's ultimates. It's very effective if you can res 3 or 4 people at once, but sometimes resing high value teammates like a tank or maybe someone who has an ultimate ready to go is pretty good too. Now I know there are some people who like to wait for the perfect play of the game res, but I'll admit sometimes you might not get that chance to do it. If your teammates are too far apart for a full res, or maybe they go in and die staggered one at a time, it might be a little difficult to determine whether to use her res or not, so Mercy's ultimate definitely requires a lot of coordination with your team. It also requires you to know when to play a little bit more passive so that you can survive the team fight. You sort of have to gauge whether the enemy has their ultimates or not and they want to use it, and if they do, you don't want to be anywhere near there because if you get caught in one of those and you get killed, it makes your res useless. Speaking of which, what I find interesting is that even though the medic's Uber and Mercy's ultimate are very powerful, they can be denied, but in their own way. Now because the medic's Uber charge resets on death, you can actually stop a medic from ever using an Uber for an entire match if you constantly focus him down and kill him before he can pop it. Now Mercy can also be sort of quote denied as well, but not really in the same way. Ultimates in Overwatch don't reset on death, so it's inevitable that she'll get it, but you can stop her from using it at the optimal time. If you get a pick off on Mercy, or you catch her in the chaos of ultimates, she won't be alive to use her res, and you'll win that team fight. But sometimes the hard part is realizing that the Mercy is hiding during a fight. It's easy to get tunnel vision in Overwatch with all the crazy stuff going on, and if you don't take care of that Mercy, she'll just come in there and undo all of your hard work. So now it's time for me to choose which is my favorite to play, at least right now, and it's gonna be the medic. It's not that Mercy is bad, I think she's really good, but I like to play a little bit more aggressive. I like an aggressive playstyle where I can pocket someone and sort of control the pacing of the game with those Ubers. I like to be directly in the action rather than waiting in a corner for my team to die and then swooping at the last second for a res, only to get killed myself like really quickly because, you know, that always happens, right? Now if I'm playing with a well-coordinated team that will protect me and help me out, I'll probably play Mercy, but if not, I'm probably going to stick with the other healers in Overwatch where I can do other things besides healing. But what about you? If you play TF2 in Overwatch, who do you like to play more, the medic or Mercy? And of course I'll ask this again, if they were to fight, who would win? Let me know in the comments below. So I hope you enjoyed this video, thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.